Okay. So welcome to the mindfulness in the face of Corona. I'm not sure what we titled this lecture, but I believe it was mindfulness, how to deal, Serenity now, keeping your sanity in the face of COVID. So I'm going to share my screen. Hold on, and we'll start. Oh, here's the room. Okay. Sorry, there's my calendar. Trying to open. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's not opening. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, Serenity now, staying sane during COVID-19. So basically, we all have a plan on how we think life is supposed to go, but reality is not always the way that we expect. For example, Jessica and I were talking about before how our kids are supposed to be graduating this year, and it looks like they're going to be missing their senior year of school, right? And a lot of other people are missing work, and people are supposed to get married. And I went to my first Zooneral, listening to a service online for, on a Zoom call. So we have plans and they get messed up. And basically this coronavirus has done that to everybody and has sort of leveled the playing field. Like, we are all in the same boat. We're all in this I think I posted something about we're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat because we all have different things that we're missing. So mindfulness can really help us to cope with all of the things, that we're missing, and allow us to stay present in the face of in the face of all of this disruption. So we have a choice. We can't always choose the external and what happens to us, but we can choose how we respond to it. And by rewiring our minds, we can learn how to live with more joy, peace, and fulfillment within our current circumstances. And it all starts in your mind. So a little bit about me. I was talking to Randy and Jessica before about how I got into all of this. I started my journey when I got diagnosed with celiac disease. I was a horrible eater growing up, and my nickname was Junk Food Jody. And in my mid-30s, I got this diagnosis of celiac disease, and I didn't even really have any of the symptoms that were typical. And it really was devastating for me because I was not a good eater, and I had to learn how to eat without gluten for the rest of my life, when I didn't even really know at the time in the early 2000s what gluten was. So I started counseling. Once I got my diet under control, I started counseling people on gluten-free diets. And there was one small problem. I knew nothing about nutrition. So I ended up going back to school, to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where I not only learned about how food has an impact on us, on our emotional and physical health, but also on our, mental health. I learned about spirituality and how the holistic approach to health. So I went on to study mindfulness and meditation at Omega and Kripalu, and it changed my entire perspective. It changed the way that I viewed the world and myself, and it taught me how to finally be content. Well, relatively content, really, but as content as we really can be. But it changed everything for me. So I started teaching people about mindfulness and meditation. I went to I was a practitioner at the Center for Health and Healing for 7 years. And I recently just moved my office right before this whole pandemic happened to an online coaching business, mindful mindset coaching, where I coach women individually and in groups online, which turned out to be good timing for me. And I also speak on the subject, and I just did a Jewish Book Council tour with my book, Mindful is the New Skinny, that was out 2 years ago now. And I also do a lake meditation in that bottom picture over the summer, which hopefully will not be canceled this summer. We shall see. These are some of my influences. John Kabat-Zinn on the left, he's the father of mindfulness. He started the MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction clinics all over the world. Byron Katie, I saw her at Omega. She's unbelievable. She really talks about how your mind creates your own suffering. And then if you can manage your mind, you can control how much you suffer. And Sharon Salzberg, who does a lot of meditations and loving kindness. So stress and anxiety is at an all-time high. Even before the coronavirus, I felt like we were in this fast-paced lifestyle. We don't really pay attention to much. The whole political climate is so divisive. We're on our smartphones. We have many, many demands. But now this virus has just, made it like we're on, anxiety on steroids at this point. So this is the perfect time to really learn mindfulness and learn how to turn inward and learn how to manage your minds, because we have the time and we have the experience. It's almost like when you're toilet training your child and you give them lots of juice and water so they go to the bathroom. Well, now we're being flooded with tons of uncertainty and stress. So it's a great time to be able to learn how to manage all of it. And we're not taught how to manage our minds. We don't, our brains didn't come with a user manual, and we will have to learn how to manage it on our own. So mindfulness really is, in my opinion, awareness plus compassion. So it's almost like a compassionate awareness. It is being present it's being in the present moment in a particular way without judgment, which basically just means like a kind, compassionate awareness of what's going on in your life for yourself. Self-compassion, being kind to yourself, especially during this time, not putting too many expectations on yourself, and just being able to muster up enough energy to get through the day, because it can be really difficult and stressful. And being compassionate to others, especially right now, the ones living in your house that may be getting on your nerves, and realizing that we are all going through our own things. So being compassionate and recognizing our common humanity. Like, we are all just human beings. We are all human, and we are all doing the best we can. So when people sort of act out or act unskillfully towards you, it's important to not personalize that, because it's really not about you. It's about them and how they're viewing, how they're experiencing what you're doing. It's not always about you, and we always personalize things. And most of the time, it is really about what you're triggering for that person. And then also mindfulness, compassion for your daily experiences, for what you go through on a daily basis. And again, especially now in this time, being compassionate for what you're going through, because this is really hard stuff. So when things don't go your way, as they do in regular life, besides just the virus time, just being compassionate, because life is difficult. And as the Buddha says, life is suffering. And you're not supposed to be happy all the time. Life hurts and it's hard, not because you're doing it wrong, because it hurts for everybody. So mindfulness is all about being with the pain and being with the discomfort, and increasing your capacity to tolerate it. So if we can increase our capacity to be uncomfortable, life becomes a lot easier, if that makes sense. So letting go of perfection. Again, a good time to let go of perfection. Because right now we're not so worried about our hair and our nails, or maybe we are, but we don't have to be out in public. And this is a perfect time where we can shift from the external to the internal. And not worrying about the perfect house, the perfect body, the perfect everything, and just sort of being right now and turning inward and getting in touch with yourself and getting in touch with your emotions and feelings and being aware of them. And again, being compassionate towards yourself. So I just want to make a comment about the nature of our minds. Basically, the true nature of our mind is suffering. As I mentioned in the Buddhists say life is suffering, because as long as we're trying to avoid pain and driving towards pleasure, we are going to suffer. But if we can realize the full spectrum of life is ups and downs, and expect to have certain downs, and not always going towards happiness every minute, then we will be more at peace. So we do have a thinking disease, right? We're constantly thinking, our minds are going and going and going all the time. And it's important the problem is not that we are thinking, because that's an advanced skill that differentiates us around the animals, but it's that we're not knowing that we're thinking, that we're not aware that we're thinking. So one of the keys of mindfulness is to really know that you're thinking, to create an awareness. So, wow, I'm really going into a negative spiral right now. I don't have to believe everything I think, and I could sort of observe what I'm thinking instead of just spiraling. We have a negativity bias, and that's because from an evolutionary perspective, we are programmed to survive with the stress response, the fight or flight response. So we tend to look toward negative things and for problems so that we can survive as a species. Because if we were so relaxed on the savannah, back in the caveman times, we would be eaten by a lion. So our brains were really meant to be on high alert so we could survive as a species. And then also, perception is everything. How you explain things to yourself, your explanatory style is really important, because, some days I'm sure you have where everything is horrible and this is, the world is coming to an end and you're thinking your catastrophic thoughts. And then other days, as Jessica and I were talking before, like, we can do this. We have our own thing going on. Like, we're doing at-home workouts. We're taking our walks, and yeah, I can do this. So it's all about how you talk to yourself, and maybe if you had the news on that day and everything that we hear. We'll hear a horrible story from somebody, and then we'll go into a negative spiral. So it's just creating that awareness, knowing that our minds are programmed for the negative, and really just being aware so you can change your perception. So if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. And if you are at peace, you're living in the present. So what does that exactly mean? So if your thoughts tend to ruminate about our old life and what life used to be, being able to go out to dinner and, whatever happened in your past, and you're constantly thinking about that, you tend to get depressed. And if your thoughts are, oh my God, what's going to happen, in the future, economically, with the virus. I mean, of course, we're going to have these thoughts because we're human. But if our minds are constantly making up stories about things that haven't happened yet, we're going to get anxious. And if we are at peace, we are in the present. So if we can just get through today, that's what I always tell people. Can you get through today? That's the only day that you need to get through. And every day so far you've gotten through. So all you need to really focus on is getting through today and noticing when your thoughts are sort of in the past and noticing when your thoughts are in the future and bringing them back to the present. And that's what mindfulness and meditation help us with. And remembering that nothing is permanent. There's the law of impermanence. So this will change. We will get through this. Everything is temporary, except for death and taxes, I guess. But now that might not even be permanent. I don't even know. But everything is temporary. Emotions are temporary. So even if you're feeling such strong emotions, you will get through it, because emotions are just energy in motion and they will pass. And this time will pass as well. So let's talk a little bit about meditation. These are some of the benefits of meditation: improved thinking. It helps you with your concentration, your cognitive ability, your creativity, your focus, emotional control. You're not as reactive. You have more empathy. You're able to pause between stimulus and response. And there's a lot of health benefits. It decreases stress, which means your cortisol levels are down, your sympathetic nervous system transfers to the parasympathetic nervous system, which means that everything calms down. All of your, you move from the fight or flight response to the rest and digest response, and that creates a lot of health benefits. And meditation is simply the exercise that you do to become more mindful. There's a lot of myths about meditation, and it's woo-woo and this and that, and now I think it's becoming much more mainstream, and you can really take the spirituality out of it if you want. It's simply just a brain training exercise. It's basically when you meditate, your mind wanders. Everybody says, I can't meditate because my mind is so busy. But the reality is everybody's mind is busy. And if your mind is really busy and you don't think you can meditate, you're probably somebody that needs it the most. So it's important it's like going to the gym, right? It's like saying, I can't go to the gym because I'm out of shape. That's saying I can't meditate because my brain is so busy. So the reason that we do it is to calm the brain down. So when you do meditate, your brain will probably wander within 2 or 3 seconds, and that's okay, because as soon as you notice it wandering, you just bring it back to your breath. And then it's going to wander again in 2 or 3 minutes or seconds, and you just notice it wandering and you bring it back to your breath. So the myth is that people think, oh, I can't shut my mind off. Well, nobody can, and you're not supposed to. You're just supposed to notice the fluctuations of your mind and bring it back to your breath. So you want to stay with your feelings instead of resisting them, allowing yourself to be with whatever uncomfortable feelings come up, instead of reaching for the pint of ice cream or grabbing a glass of wine or whatever we do when we feel uncomfortable. Pausing and just allowing yourself to be uncomfortable. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is really the key here. And then you can tolerate a lot more stressful events. So that's one of the purposes of meditation, is to really increase that tolerance. And then mindful eating is something that we can do, especially during this time, being aware of what we put in our mouths, not mindlessly eating an entire bag of chips like I did the other night, really just paying attention to what you're eating instead of all of that distraction, and slowing down and pausing and tasting your food and not feeling guilty afterwards if you eat something that you really want to eat and you're mindful of it and you're eating it with intention and you're eating it slowly and you're tasting every bite. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up after it. It's just the unconscious eating that really causes a lot of the problems for us and puts on the weight. So there's formal and informal meditation. The formal meditation is the meditation that we do when we like sit for 10 or 15, 20 minutes and we listen to an app or we focus on our breath. And there's also the informal meditation. And the informal meditation is more of when you're doing the dishes, just paying attention to washing your hands, to the soap on your hands, to the sensations, to, you know, whatever you're doing in the moment. When you're in the shower, paying attention to the water on your body, and not being at your 12 o'clock Zoom meeting while you're in the shower. Just being where you are in the moment. And it's really hard. I was doing yoga today and I definitely noticed my mind on 10 other different things. And that's what the mind does. So I can't beat myself up over it. I just have to notice it and gently come back to the breath and the yoga movements. The 4Bs is something I came up with as part of the meditations that I do. And we can do one here tonight. We'll do a little bit of the 4Bs at the end. But basically, if you're in a stressful moment where you're experiencing any kind of stress response, the 4Bs can help you get out of it if you can remember them at the time. So the first one is to come to your breath, is to just breathe. The second one is brain. Notice what's going on in your mind. Paying attention to the thoughts, observing the thoughts, noticing the thoughts, maybe even questioning the thoughts. Is this true, or is this the story I'm making up in my head? Is this a cognitive distortion, or is this really happening? Body, what you want to do is go from your brain into the sensations of your body. And again, we're going to practice this at the end. But just noticing what sensations you're feeling in your body. Is your heart racing? Are your palms sweaty? Is your throat closing up? Just shifting from your mind into the sensations of your body can diffuse any kind of panic that you're having. And then when you're ready, beginning again, starting again, anew, fresh, after you've processed your feelings and have calmed yourself down. Because it's important to, when I talked about before, of being with your feelings, processing them through your body can diffuse them. Okay. So other past the present. So if you are in a moment where you're particularly stressed, you can always come back to your senses. What do I hear? This can bring you back to the present moment really quickly. What do I hear? I hear birds. I hear a truck backing up. I hear my dog. What do I see? Literally saying to yourself, like, blue chair, green towel, you know, whatever, black shoe, you know, just focusing on what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and what you're feeling. Maybe just some tactile, rubbing the chair, feeling the fabric, feeling the temperature in the room. Those kinds of things can bring you right back to the present moment. And also a body scan, which is a popular meditation, noticing the physical sensations in your body, going from your head to your toe, and just paying attention to each part of your body, noticing where the tension is, and breathing into those areas. And then mindful breathing. You can literally do different ones. Sweet 16 is 4 breaths in, 4 breaths pause, 4 breaths out, 4 breath pause. So, you know, doing different breathing exercises, even saying to yourself, inhale, exhale, or in, out. Or you could also count your breaths. 1, 2, 3, or count backwards from 10. Anything where you're focused on your breath. And if you can't just focus on your breath, giving yourself like a mental note, like the counting, can really be helpful to help you stay on your breath. Okay, and beginner's mind. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. So the beginner's mind is a Buddhist concept, again, where you're really paying attention, looking at a situation without any preconceived notions, like you've never seen it before. It's like biting into that hamburger like you never tasted a burger before. Um, and I think from this coronavirus and the quarantine that we are going to be able to appreciate so many more things when we are able to leave our houses again, because we're going to look at things with a beginner's mind. Going out to dinner, you're going to pay attention because you haven't done it in so long, and that's really what the beginner's mind is. You're going to look around, you're going to take in with all your senses the smells and the sights, because it's going to be new and novel. And then eventually we'll get back to our regular, lives, and it won't be as novel. But if you can take that beginner's mind with you and see each experience as new, you won't get jaded, and you will be living life with a joy, an appreciation, a gratitude, a different perspective. Because do you guys notice when you do go to a yoga class or a workout class, or even on the bus, remember Sane seats on the bus? We always seem to go to the same. We're creatures of habit. So we always go to the same spot in the yoga class. We would always sit on the bus in the same seats. And if you can shake that up a little bit, you will see things from a new perspective. I did that with my family. I made them we all sit at the same spots at the dinner table. And one night I was like, we're going to shake this up and everybody take a different seat. And they were really thrown by that. My youngest son wouldn't even do it. So, it was too uncomfortable. So trying little things like that, taking a different spot in the yoga class as you're used to, or sitting in a different seat at the table, can really give you a different perspective. And help you with that beginner's mind. What will I do differently going forward? Because this is a time, we're almost like caterpillars in a cocoon right now. We're just like working. This is a great time where we can really work on ourselves. And what will you do differently going forward? Introspective questions about how you will continue after this. So here are some takeaways, just a couple. I'll go through them quickly and then we can do a meditation. But basically, the nature of our mind is to think and protect, fight or flight. Mindfulness is a compassionate awareness, so be kind to yourself during this time. Letting go of perfection, time to go inward instead of external. That was basically the whole premise of my book, The Mindful is the New Skinny. Is all about nourishing the inside so you can flourish on the outside, and really taking this time to notice a lot of things that you don't really notice when you're rushing and sprinting through life on autopilot. Staying present, I am okay today, is a great mantra to have. I just need to worry about today. I don't have to worry about 6 months from now. And we'll see what happens. Life's an adventure, looking at it with a curiosity instead of a panic. Everything is temporary. Be with all your feelings, allow them to be there. Try to increase your tolerance to be with your emotions and process those feelings through the 4 B's. Focus on what you can control, let go of what you can't, and have a beginner's mind, a new appreciation for things, a gratitude for what you do have, and what will you take with you. And here's a little graphic I like about focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't. You can focus on your reactions. You can focus to your exposure to negativity, your gratitude, your routine, how you spend your time. But you can't control who goes out, when, who's following social distancing rules, other people's reactions, what the government does, who will get sick and who won't, what's going to happen if life is going to return to normal. So really focusing on what you can control. And this is my big takeaway. A joyful life is not the result of perfection, but rather of compassion for yourself, for others, and for the entire, your entire human experience. So that's that. This is a guest house poem I really like. Maybe I will read that during the meditation. And that is my presentation. So I am going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to unmute you guys. And also let you know that if you're not in my Facebook group, Mindful Moms, you can join there where I do my Namaste in Bed meditations and post a lot of things. It's a pretty active group and it's great participation that we're getting. So, yeah, so join that. And if anybody, does anybody have any questions before we do the meditation? Is everybody unmuted? Does anybody want to say anything, ask anything, comment on anything?
I really like the slide about the beginner mind and about, I like what you said about switching the seats at the dinner table. And I mean, because I personally am such a, like if I, am I in a class, I sit in the same spot in the class. If I'm, so it's just, it was just a very interesting thing to think about and to try.
Yeah,
so thank you.
And that different perspective. And you'll see it's different. It's weird. It's, you know, I used to try that in yoga all the time. And it was a different perspective each time. So it just keeps things new and fresh instead of just like same old, same old. So yeah.
And it gets you out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Yeah.
My mind is in a million places, I guess, like everyone's all the time. I actually noticed it tonight, and I was reading my kids a book, and one of my sons asked a question like about the book, and I literally, we were reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I had no idea, like it was within the last 2 paragraphs, he asked why something happened, and I couldn't have even told you what the last 2 paragraphs were about, but I didn't realize that I wasn't paying attention. So I had to go back and reread them to answer like why something had happened. And it was interesting when you said it, because I like all the time I'm reading words, but I'm like thinking about whatever.
Yeah, so distracted. It's like, you know, when we're driving, how many times have you, you know, missed an exit because your mind was somewhere else? I mean, I did that all the time when I used to drive. You know, it's like when you're in the shower, forgetting if you washed your hair.
Oh, I always forget, like, did I put conditioner in? Sometimes I do it twice.
Right.
Because I can't account for it. But I look into the future. Emily knows this. I feel like I always say a friend like Emily needs a friend like me, and a friend like me needs a friend like her, because
That's right.
Totally. Like, I'm like, but what if this, but what if that? And yeah.
Making up stories. You're making up things that probably are not going to happen, you know? Emily, did you want to say something?
Lines that you had said, only worry, I'm paraphrasing, but only worry about the things that you can control. And I worked with somebody years ago who used to tell me that all the time. Just don't worry about that. You can't control it. So stop worrying about it. And it's so true. And I don't know, I don't think somebody who does that, but seeing that on the slide, it's like all of the things around there are things that we can't control. And I stopped watching the news weeks ago. I just literally don't do it. And it's been so freeing. And I don't know, a lot of that slide resonated for me, and, you know, kind of getting back to the basics and things that I can control. And tonight it was like 5:45 and I'm just finishing work and starting to make dinner, and my son came in and asked if we can go to Getty Park to throw rocks in the pond. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go throw rocks in the pond. I want to make dinner. But I was like, wait, no, we're going to go throw rocks in the pond. So we like all piled in the car and threw rocks in the lake at Getty Park. And was probably the best half hour that I've had in a really long time, because it's not something that we normally would have done. So
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. I mean, I feel like so many people are doing so many things that they don't normally do, that it's really, gearing up that beginner's mind, and it keeps us active and keeps us just interested in life. Um, Even though it can seem so mundane just by every day being Groundhog Day. But that's a good point. Like,
yeah.
just being, controlling what you can. And if you can't control it, you have no choice. You have to let it go. Otherwise, because worry is sort of like this useless emotion that we have. It doesn't really affect the outcome, whether we're worried about it or not. So if it's not in our control, there's nothing really we can do. And then staying present, staying on today. How can I get through the day? Obviously we plan for future, but we don't have to obsess about the uncertainty, because uncertainty is really uncomfortable. And life is uncertain whether we're in the pandemic or not. It's always, we never know what's going to happen. Life can change in an instant, right? So
yeah, but in this scenario, like for me, like the Groundhog Day aspect, I can, like, it's fine. I can deal with that. Like, it kind of is what it is. And my days fly by, actually. Like, there's just so much going on for us here. It's more so the uncertainty about, like, the impact this will have on my kids. Like, they're fine now, pretty much. But, like, to the uncertain point, like, if they're out of school for the whole year, if camp doesn't happen, I mean, this is my thing, right? Like, okay, like, the social impact, like, where do you pick up? Like, are we doing separation in the threes like we did in the twos, like missing all that time? And is the world, like, is it going to be a slow phase in of masks and, 2 people at a time, like all of this type of kind of concern? Like, I can deal with it, but more so like I want my kids to be kids, and hopefully they have each other, but like they miss their friends, and kind of diving into technology and then pulling it back, like realizing I'm wrapped up in something today, my husband's wrapped up in something today. My son had a Zoom lunch date, which great to see friends, and then which started at 12:30, and then he told me he hung up at 3:11, and I'm like, okay. And no. But at the same time, I'm like, you got to get on Zoom for this. We got to get on Zoom for that. And it's like this push and pull of like, and then hopefully everything goes back to some sense of normalcy. And then you're kind of trying to untrain the technology thing. It's like all of that type of stuff I find so
challenging.
Yeah. And I'm a born warrior. I was like born to worry. So this is like fuels my fire.
So I would just say in that, listen, this is like, think of this in, with your whole life, this is like a blip. You know what I mean? I know it's, the kids are young and they're impressionable and all that, but they're so resilient and they don't really know, especially the younger ones, really what's going on. I guess your 1-year-old maybe.
I mean, she's having the best time. I always say, like, her brothers are home, we're home, no naps are interrupted. Like, she's great.
Right. I mean, I think the kids are resilient. They will adjust. They will get used to it. And it is going to be something like we're living through history. It's like we're going to always remember the pandemic of 2020 or whatever, like how they talk about the Spanish flu and how they talk about, it's really, we're living through history right now. And it is going to be in the past. And it is going to be something we're going to look back on. And life will get back to normal, obviously. I mean, who knows when, but, this is an experience. It's just an experience. And, if we put so much judgment on it, it's a good experience, it's a bad experience. Yes, there's going to be some consequences, but there's also going to be a lot of good that comes from it in terms of the family time. And like we talked about, like the different things, the rock throwing, and all that time that we spend. I mean, I'm sure my dog's loving this, that we're home 24 hours a day. Like there's definitely something good about being together as a family and paying attention and slowing down and having this break. I mean, it's Earth Day, and the Earth is getting, you know, such a treat right now by not having all the pollution. So there's going to be negative and positive consequences of everything in life, right? Every decision you make, there's good and there's bad. So we're just going to have to see. We'll see. That's another, you know, parable that I read. Jessica, I think I read that in the last Namaste in Bed call. You know, it's like we don't know what's going to happen. It's a story about a farmer whose son got drafted, and everybody thought, oh, that's horrible for the son. And then he ended up breaking his leg, so he couldn't be drafted. It's like we don't know. You know, everyone thought it was horrible that he broke the leg, but then he wasn't able to be drafted. So it's like each thing that happens really just, you know, builds on each other, and we just don't know what's, you know, what's going to come out of each life experience. Some good, some bad. We're just going to have to balance it. Okay. So do you guys want to do meditation?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just see how we're going to do this. So you can just close your eyes if you want. We could, if you want to pop your camera off, if you're more comfortable with that, you can just turn off the video. I'll stay on, but I'm going to mute you guys while we do the meditation, just so there's no external noise. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. I'm going to do this meditation that actually I've adapted from my book. It's called I Don't Want to Feel This. I Prefer Retail Therapy. And it basically teaches you how to process your uncomfortable feelings. And we're going to do the 4 B's like I mentioned. Okay, so first, just take a few breaths, always starting with your breath to calm down. Inhaling and exhaling. Your breath is always here for you. So just follow your breath with your attention, watching the inhale and exhale. Just know that you're breathing. Sort of like a wave in the ocean. Finding a rhythm to your breath. And when your mind wanders, as it will, gently just simply come back to your breath. So that's the first B, just breathing. And the second B is your brain. You can take this minute to think about how the virus is making you feel, the fear, the uncertainty, what's going to happen. We don't want to push those thoughts away, but we just want to notice them and lean into them instead of avoiding them. So check in with your thoughts around this event and notice any emotions or feelings that you may be having in this moment. And just notice if these thoughts are stories that you're making up about the future, because nobody knows what's really going to happen. And you can just name them, name the emotions, fear, anxiety, uncertainty, anger, frustration, whatever it is, just name the thought or the feeling. You can actually tame these emotions simply by naming them. Because you're just noticing them. And when you notice or observe, you don't become so connected to them. You're just watching. And next, go into your body. Shift out of your head and allow yourself to feel where the stress is located in your body by tuning in to the sensations. So maybe your heart is racing or beating a little faster, or your chest is heavy or tight. Maybe your throat is tight. Just be curious about where you feel the sensations, opening to it, leaning in. And then noticing, where is the sensation located? If you had to give it a color, what color would it be? Does it have a texture, a temperature, a shape? You just want to describe the sensation that you're feeling. Does it have hard edges? Try and sit with the discomfort instead of trying to fix it or get rid of it. Feel it without allowing it to become too intense. Say yes to it. And then just breathe into that area without thinking about the fear. Just simply feel the sensations in your body coming and going, allowing the pain or uncomfortable feeling to be there and giving it space to dissolve and shift. Notice that by observing the pain, it diffuses a bit. If a feeling is not attached to a thought, it should lessen within 90 seconds. It may not go away. You're not trying to get rid of it, but just be with it and see if it shifted in any way. It's already there. You may as well feel it. And now begin again. Notice how you're feeling. in this moment and how you would like to proceed. So just continue breathing for another minute. Just paying attention to what's happening in your body. Focusing on your breath. Letting it all go. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Taking your time. Very slowly. You could stretch out if you need to. I'm going to unmute you guys. And if you feel like you want to, feel free to share how that experience was for you. Maybe you were going in and out, focusing, not focusing. Anybody want to share?
I noticed that I ended up
Shut
thinking
off for
about other
me.
things.
What? You noticed what? I'm sorry.
Oh, I ended up thinking about other things and having to kind of reset.
Yeah. That's what it is. That's what meditation is. It's thinking about other things and having to reset.
Yeah.
And the idea is if you do that enough times, that when you're in a negative thought pattern, you're going to wake up to the fact that you're in a negative thought pattern and reset. So when you practice doing that so many times, interrupting your thinking and coming back, then you can do that in your real life when you're like getting crazy about something. Be like, wait a minute, look what my thinking is doing. Because now you can observe the thinking, right? Because that's what meditation is, practicing observing. So you can observe it so that when you're in a negative thought pattern, you can say, oh, I need to reset. So that really is one of the benefits or purposes. Anybody else want to share how that was? Were you able to like feel the sensations in your body, describe that? Sometimes people have a really hard time with that. What color is it? What sensation is it? People are like, what are you talking about? But, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
don't love that.
What?
I don't love that personally, but I do love the like few minutes to just shut everything else out and not think about anything. And I think the more I do it, the more valuable it becomes. Just this idea of like, I'm not going to think of anything and I'm just going to shut my brain off.
Can you do that though? Because I feel like the thoughts are still there. Even if you decide I'm going to just shut my brain off, it's like not possible.
No, but yeah, but you come back. And I feel like afterwards, I don't know, I feel like when I first, and I don't do this regularly, I'm not going to pretend that I do it regularly, but I've actually done this a lot through work over the last year, and it becomes easier. And I feel like the first couple of times I did it, I was like ready to go to sleep after, right? It's like you have that, like, it's hard to come back. But now it's like, I feel like I just have this period of time where I shut my brain off and it's like a rest. It's like my brain goes to sleep and then I'm reinvigorated almost. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I mean, I still, when I do it, I still have the thoughts, but I'm feeling the rhythm of my breath. Like I'm able to like get into that rhythm the more that I do it. But yeah, But this exercise was sort of about learning how to process those emotions, those uncomfortable sensations in your body when your stress response is activated. So that's why I kind of took you into your brain first. Like, what are the thoughts? Because then the thoughts produce, you can see the thoughts literally produce the sensations. And then you can kind of look in there and see what's happening with the sensations. See, like start to observe them. So if you're in a panic about something, you can be like, oh, I notice my heart racing, or I notice a pit in my stomach. And you just start to notice everything instead of getting so stressed out about everything. You just become this observer of what's happening. And then that part about what color is it, what shape is it? If you really quiet the mind and just, take it with a grain a little, or just like go with it, sometimes, oh, I feel a red circle on my chest, or, a blue oval. I mean, people really get descriptive. It's very interesting. Someone had like a yellow vertical line going through. I mean, if you do it like the first thing that comes to your head, it's interesting. So play with that. Anybody else? Jessica, how was that for you?
I find that a lot of times with meditation, like a lot of emotion comes up for me. And I don't even know exactly, I can't pinpoint on what it is that's being released, but it's almost like a release. Like my eyes will tear, or I just, a memory of something will sort of just swirl through.
Because it's like you're finally being quiet and all that stuff is coming up to the surface.
That's what usually happens for me with meditation. Or, I mean, I used to do all the time. And I still do, but I used to practice TM.
Mm-hmm.
And
What's that?
Transcendental meditation. And it's more mantra-based meditation. And I still do it. I don't do it like you're supposed to do it twice a day and blah, blah, blah. I do it like once a day. And I do it a little differently though. I actually I know that you're supposed to totally quiet the mind, and if a thought comes in, you're supposed to acknowledge it, but not focus on it. I actually like to focus on the thoughts that sort of come in. So like if a memory comes in, or I think of something and it sort of comes in, I'll spend a little time with it. And I find it to be very relaxing. And I kind of like what comes in. And so that's why I still do the TM, but I do it a little differently than how you're supposed to be doing it, because I really do like that. And when I do your meditation, I love your meditation and I love doing it, and I find it really relaxing. I love the Thursday night one. And it's still the same thing. I can quiet, but then I have these different things that sort of float in. And I do spend a little time with it, and I kind of like it. Like even I was sitting on my couch in the other room, and I had the memory of when I got the couch, which was, if I tell you, probably 20 years ago when we got that couch. But like I remembered it was a memory of with my mother and getting the couch, and my mother's not been alive for a very long time. And so just that's what came into my head, and I kind of like to go with it and spend a little time. And that's to me what I love most about meditation is those things can come out, and you can visit with the thoughts, and then they kind of go their own way.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's so many different ways and purposes. It's like whatever works for you. If you enjoy that, I mean, you're not practicing the interrupting of the thinking and observing, but but if you enjoy that, who cares? Like, who's to say there's one way to do it? And what I would say to that is, go with it, but try to observe it. Oh, it's interesting. I'm thinking of my mother. You know what I mean? I'm noticing that I'm thinking of my mother, with the couch. So if you can just take it one step further, and shift it a little bit, because it seems like it's working. So say, I'm noticing I'm thinking blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So
I'll definitely try that.
Yeah, try it and see if that, like, because then that's really mindfulness and meditation. Oh, I'm noticing I'm having this thought.
As
So,
opposed to daydreaming.
yeah, well, then you don't become the thought. Then you're still the observer noticing the thoughts. And that's really what mindfulness is, to just give you an awareness, but a kind awareness, like, oh, well, noticing the thought, and, like just being kind to yourself about whatever those thoughts are. So,
I'm
that's
definitely going to try that. Thank you.
sure. Anybody else want to say anything, or what they got out of this, or anythings?
This
No?
was great. I really liked it. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank
I
you.
hope
Thank you,
the lake
Jody.
opens. I would love to do your lake meditation. I think I would really like that.
No, it's really great. I mean, it's every year it gets bigger and bigger, and it's just a really nice time.
I've heard great things about it.
Oh, good. Well, if you guys if you're not on my this is a good time for me to plug my mailing list. If you guys want to get on my email list, if you go to jodybarretts.com and put your name in, there's a free gift. I think it's 8 ways to become more mindful or something. Or if you guys want, I'm going to give you access to the meditations that go with the book. If you go to mindfulisthenewskinny.com, you can get 13 meditations that go with the book, including this one. There's also recipes and other resources in there too. So mindfulisthenewskinny.com, that will also put you on my email list. So you'll get notified about the lake meditations this summer, and the Namaste in Bed meditations that I'm doing, and anything else that I'm doing in the area. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Jody, for doing this. It
Thanks,
was so nice to
Jody.
meet you.
Sure. No, it was so great to meet you, and good to see you too, Emily, because it says Andrew on there.
I know.
But anyway, so thank you guys, and I hope this was beneficial and you got something out of it. So if you have any questions, you could always contact me and reach out and whatever. So, all right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jody.
All right. Good night.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.